Hey guys, the first episode of the final season just ended and it was spectacular. Before we make breakdown on the episode 2 preview, let's first review the season 8 premiere. It's one of the strongest, probably the best opening episodes we've ever seen in Game of Thrones. Before the opening scene, we are treated with a new intro that has some major differences. The intro is completely changed from Winterfell to King's Landing. Instead of just gliding over the Red Keep, the new opening credits take us inside where we see Dragon's Skull that we saw in season 7. The intro even includes the Iron Throne now. The wall has changed as well, with a massive hole at Eastwatch. This is obviously a reference to the scene at the end of season 7, when the Night King destroyed portion of the wall by using the undead dragon Viserion. The ice floor that spreads out from the wall representing the Night King and his army who brings the storm and winter goes to the Last Heart, the seat of House Umber, and right there, before the episode even started, we knew the Last Heart was doomed. The episode begins with Jon and Dany arriving in Winterfell in a callback to the series' very first episode of the first season, with Dany and her camp standing in for King Robert and his. Everyone is present other than Arya, who is watching their arrival among the small folk at Wintertown. Besides Jon, Dany and her armies, of course dragons arrive as well, and Sansa seems to be just as impressed as Arya is. Jon reunites with his family. Jon hugs his brother and tells him how much he's grown since the last time he saw him, but Bran is ice cold, so the reunion between him and Jon turned out exactly how he expected, unsatisfying. Jon then introduces Dany to his family and what follows is a tense meeting between Dany and Sansa. Sansa does say Winterfell is yours, your grace, the same line her father said to King Robert when he arrived at Winterfell, but by Sansa's face expression we can see she doesn't like any of that. After Jon's reunited with his family and has introduced Dany to them, Bran tells everyone they don't have time for this, the Night King is coming. Bran also tells Dany about Viserion, which she is shocked about. This leads to a huge meeting at Winterfell. In the Great Hall most of the characters are present, but Arya is not. Topics discussed on this meeting include introducing Dany, the current status of the troops and their defenses. Jon says they need to send ravens to let everybody know the Night King has crossed the wall and has his own dragon. Dany is watching the reaction of the Northern Lords, which is not very sensible. Lady Mormont says they named him King in the North, and it's his job to rule it, not Dany. Jon emphasizes the importance of allies and how they cannot win the Great War without Dany. Tyrion says great things about Jon and tells everybody his sister promised to send the troops. He's confident that the Lannister troops will be coming. The North is in outrage because they cannot believe Lannister troops are coming to the North. Then the Tyrion's line from the trailer comes, "We must fight together now or die." Sansa is concerned about the Lannister troops and talks with Tyrion. She asks him if he really thinks Cersei is going to help them. Tyrion vouches for his sister and says they're there to help. Tyrion defends Cersei, which might add some fuel on an already popular theory about a secret deal the two siblings might have made during their closed-door meeting in the season 7 finale. Especially Sansa's reply to that, "I thought you were the cleverest man I've ever met," implying to how can Tyrion be so naive. The look Bran gives him might also be a hint of Tyrion's betrayal and he's seen it. But then again, Tyrion is known for reading people as good as books, so does he really think Cersei is going to help them, or is it a part of his plan? It's going to be interesting how Tyrion's story plays out later on in the season. Tyrion might be working with Cersei. Meanwhile in King's Landing, Qyburn informs Cersei that the Night King has crossed the wall and he has the dragon, which is a great news for Cersei. Let them kill each other in the north. There's also a little chat between Euron and his niece Yara about the Queen. Euron finally arrives at King's Landing with the Golden Company, but without the war elephants, which seems to enrage the Queen, but nevertheless has to sleep with Euron for bringing the Golden Company from Essos. The Golden Company is introduced, a new character, their leader Harry Strickland. In case you don't know, the Golden Company is known for never breaking a contract, but in the books they broke it for the first time to side with a Targaryen, so we should keep an eye on that possible twist. I also believe Aerys will be the one to turn the Golden Company against Cersei. Conleth Hill teased this about his character Varys. Varys is effective as always. What this means and foreshadows is Varys turning the Golden Company against Cersei and Euron, persuading them to fight for the last Rhaegar's son Aegon Targaryen, since after all, black or red, a dragon is still a dragon. We have been listening over and over again how the Golden Company have never broken a contract, that them breaking it and supporting Targaryens seems like such an obvious twist of the final season. Additionally, as I already said, the Golden Company have already broken a contract in the books, the reason being a Targaryen. Also at King's Landing, Bronn gets offered a ton of money to kill Jaime and Tyrion by Qyburn at a request of Cersei. Now, some of you might believe Bronn is actually going to do it, especially with it kind of being foreshadowed in season 7, after the Loot Train battle when Bronn said to Jaime, "I'm the only one who gets to kill you." Remember, Bronn pulled Jaime from the depths of the water and onto the shore, after Jaime's failed attempt to slay Dany and end the war. Bronn then told Jaime that the only reason he rescued him is so he may be the one to ever finish him off, until he gets what he wants from him. Sure, it could be some foreshadowing here, but what we also need to remember is that Tyrion promised Bronn to beat any attempt to buy Bronn's loyalty by paying double. After all, Bronn likes the Lannister brothers much more than he likes the Queen, and in addition to that, Bronn doesn't really need any more money. As he said to Jaime, he's got plenty of gold, but all he doesn't have and eagerly wants is the Promised Castle and a highborn beauty for wife. Cersei could secure him all of that, but Bronn is smart enough to realize Cersei cannot win this war at the end. And yes, that's Joffrey's crossbow Cersei wants Bronn to kill her brothers with, the same one Tyrion used to kill their father. Bronn is definitely heading north, but he will not kill any of the Lannisters, nor will he try. He will reunite with Jaime and Tyrion at Winterfell in the upcoming episodes and will fight alongside Jaime during the battle for Winterfell. Just as I predicted, the premiere also provided a closure on Theon's rescue mission. Theon rescues Yara and tells her he's going to Winterfell to help Jon. It was an emotional scene because Yara wanted him to come to the Iron Islands with her, but realized this is something he's got to do. Theon is on his redemption path for the Starks. Wouldn't be surprised if he sacrifices his life by saving Sansa against the White Walkers. The Jon and Arya reunion was cute. Jon asked Arya if she ever needed to use the needle to stick someone with the pointy end, and she replies giggling once or twice. And they also give each other an emotional hug. This is obviously a callback to season 1, when Jon and Arya last saw each other. Jon had needle forged for Arya, and instructed her to stick with the pointy end. Their reunion was not more emotional than Jon and Sansa's because of the fact they're all home, and they're in much better place. It took place by the Weirwood Tree, but was also pretty short. Pretty underwhelming reunion for all the build-up, but it wasn't a bad scene. Arya also seemingly knows Jon is a Targaryen, since she says to him, "Don't forget we're family," and she also knows Jon will stab to the heart as she tells him that. Both of this she found out from her brother Bran. As expected, Jon is now riding a dragon. Just as we thought, these shots of Jon and Dany approaching Dragon Rhaegal turned out to be from the Season 8 premiere. And here they're flying them above Winterfell, and this is reaction of Varys, Davos and Tyrion seeing it. As I already said, all these three have already seen dragons above their heads quite a lot of times, so the only reason they'd look at a dragon with a bit of shock would be seeing Jon Snow riding Dany's other dragon Rhaegal, a dragon named after Jon's father Rhaegar Targaryen, and that's exactly what it turned out to be. Although unexpectedly, it was a pretty simple process of Dany teaching Jon how to ride one. Jon is kind of struggling at first, but very quickly gets the hang of it. Obviously it was that simple because Jon is in fact a Targaryen, and the dragons could definitely sense that. Jon and Dany make out after they land, and I'm sure they did much more than that. Dany also said one interesting line: "We could live here for 1,000 years and nobody would find us." Could this be a foreshadowing that after and if they win against the Night King, could they perhaps decide to give up on the Iron Throne and ruling altogether, and find some place far away and live out their days peacefully? Emilia Clarke or Dany said this in an interview: "The whole show is just a discussion on power, because the Iron Throne is a representative of complete and consuming power and what that does to someone. It's fascinating what I have found about the sacrifices that you make and you get out of it as a result. Ultimately, if you get on the throne, what are you really getting?" The Game of Thrones star went on to reference Cersei Lena Headey, adding, "Cersei proves that you're not getting that much, you're getting a lot of loneliness, pain, critiques." Emilia's comments set up the stage perfectly for Jon Dany destroying the Iron Throne, setting up a council and walking away from all of it with their child. They said it to Dany's "We could live here for 1,000 years and no one would find us" dialogue in episode 1 could be a huge clue for their endgame. Back to the reunions. Beside reuniting with Jon, Arya also reunited with the Hound and Gendry, who is preparing weapons for the Great War. When Arya and the Hound reunite, there's a hostility between them. They both seem to be acting, although when they actually wanted to hug each other. When she walks in, he says, "You left me there to die," and she replies saying, "I robbed you first." He doesn't really have a rebuttal. He stares for a bit and says something along the line of, "You're a bitch, aren't you?" and he walks away. It's their usual banter from season 3 and 4. Clegane seemed to be almost proud apologetic for a second, but then he's back at being himself. Gendry and Arya had a cute banter going back and forth, slightly sensual tension with all jokes. He calls her lady, which she did not like back in season 2, and neither does she like it now in season 8. Well, still, Gendry keeps calling her his lady. It seems like a love affair in making, possibly hinting their future marriage and fulfilling the promise Gendry's father's Robert Baratheon made to Arya's father Ned Stark in season 1. Remember back in the very first episode in the Winterfell Crypts, Robert Baratheon expressed his desire that his son should marry Ned's daughter to line their houses once and for all. Robert was talking about Joffrey, who he thought was his son, and Ned's daughter Sansa. However, this never happened, and therefore House Stark and House Baratheon have not been joined yet. However, a huge amount of fans think that this marriage might finally happen in the form of Robert's only son Gendry and Ned's other daughter Arya. Gendry is also building a weapon of Arya's design for her, with which she'll fight the dead in episode 3 while defending Winterfell. After that first disastrous assembly, Jon has talked to Sansa. She keeps telling him that his duty is to defend the North, and he's not taking her advice seriously. He keeps telling her they need allies. Eventually Sansa confronts Jon. Did you bend the knee for the North or for love? Also Glover starts staying home, and Karstarks arrive in the middle of the episode at Winterfell. Speaking of Dany, meeting Sansa Stark was not her only tense meeting, as beside the Lady of Winterfell she also met Jon Snow's best friend Samwell Tarly, whose father and brother she burned alive in Season 7. Daenerys and Jorah's scene with Sam in the library was also emotional. Dany and Jorah find Sam to thank him for healing Jorah. Sam begs pardon for stealing books from Citadel and his father's sword, which is when Dany learns who Sam truly is. Dany asks Sam if his father is Randyll Tarly and he says yes, which is when she learns Sam doesn't know yet about what she's done to his family. Archmace Rebros was going to tell Sam about his family fate in Season 7, but Sam departed before he got a chance. Now Sam hears it from the one who passed the sentence. Dany confesses to executing his father after his refusal to bend the knee. Sam is visibly upset, but at least he's able to go home now to visit his family with his brother as the head of House Tarly. More bad news for Sam. Dany says she killed him as well. Sam excuses himself and leaves the room. Many argue Sam will not care about it, and truth be told, he did not mourn much about his father, but as expected, he cared about his brother. However, Sam is very grateful for the information and confused in his emotions goes to talk to Bran. Bran tells him they need to tell the truth to Jon. The two decide it's better if Sam tells him. Sam goes down to the crypts to inform Jon, but before revealing it, he tells him about his father and brother. Sam asks Jon if he would have done the same thing. Jon says no, but I'm not the king. This leads into Sam telling him that he should in fact be the king, and not just king in the north, but the king of the Seven Kingdoms. Sam reveals to Jon who he truly is, and he is in disbelief and shock. Jon replies by saying, but Dany is still the queen, to which Sam replies, you bend the knee for your people and she should do the same. Sam is pushing for Jon to be the king, but it looks like Jon still believes Dany should be a queen. Let me remind you that Jon did not bend the knee because he thought Dany had the best claim, or because he needed her and her dragons against the Night King. Dany promised to help the North a few moments before Jon bent the knee, meaning that he did not do it because of her claim or because he needed her as an ally, but because he believed in her, and therefore Jon still believing Dany should remain the queen is definitely not surprising to me. It's going to be very interesting to see the next scene between Jon and Dany. Is he going to tell her about this huge reveal or keep it a secret for now? I'm also curious how their relationship will look like in the next episodes as well. I'm pretty sure Dany got pregnant and they will marry later on in the season, mainly because of their child. I do not think Jon would allow his child to be born out of wedlock and be a bastard. Then there's a short scene at the last heart that shows us an undead Ned Umber. It was clearly a dumb decision for him to stay in his castle. The last heart, the seat of House Umber, was attacked by the Night King, who left behind the same old recurring spiral symbol that we've already seen before. Tormund, Beric and Ned stumble upon the aftermath of the White Walker slaughter at Last Heart while traveling south. Even though this is terrifying, the reunion between old friends Tormund and Ned was pretty funny. They're both sneaking around the castle in dark and suddenly run into each other. Ed yells, get him, his eyes are blue. Tormund yells, my eyes have always been blue. And then they hug. It was hilarious, and definitely matches with many reports of the premiere being the funniest episode of the show. The episode ends with Jaime Lannister arriving in Winterfell. He gets off his horse and there he is, Bran Stark, a kid he pushed out a window in the very first episode of Game of Thrones. Bran reunites with a man who tried to kill him, because he saw him having an intimate relationship with his sister. Obviously, we don't expect from the Starks to execute Jaime for this. After all, Jon Snow and Dany invited the Lannisters to come and support the living in the wars to come. Jaime agreed and honored his pledge, meaning that no harm would Jon do to him, nor would he allow anyone else to do so. Starks are not the phrase, that's not their way. Bran Stark will likely forgive Jaime, and this one will probably save Bran's life in episode 3, during the battle for Winterfell. Tyrion and Brienne will be proud that Jaime has honored his pledge, while Dany and Sansa will be a bit suspicious about his intentions, upon finding out that Cersei betrayed him. They will ask him why did he come to Winterfell when his beloved sister and lover is obviously not going to help them, and why should they even trust him? That's when Jaime's line from the official trailer will come out. He will reply with, I promise to fight for the living and I intend to keep that promise. Can't wait for episode 2. The worst part about the episode, Ghost is nowhere to be found. Overall, the first episode was great, and kind of a teaser of what's to come. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.